Hello and welcome everyone. In this video I'll be discussing the features that Skyrim has that would make Fallout 4 an amazing game if they were implemented. Also the morality system. Fallout and Skyrim are both open world sandbox RPG games with an identifiable Bethesda style. They both place an emphasis on non-linearity and on crafting the exact character that caters best to any player's preferences, and they're both immensely meaty adventures that requires scores and scores of hours to see and do everything. Fallout 3 is one of the games that keeps you firmly tethered to the choices you've made, and there's certainly a place for them, especially in those titles that place a distinct emphasis on exploration and non-linearity. The thing is, when you compare Fallout 3 to Skyrim, you realize that Skyrim's lack of cohesive morality system gives you more options while removing the need to play a certain way just to keep up with the guise of consistency. Skyrim makes you pay for doing things wrong by putting bounties on you if you get caught stealing or murdering, but you're never locked out of parts of the game just because you went on a killing spree or stole some potions while the shopkeeper had his back turned. It's not to say that the morality system shouldn't be in Fallout 4, but rather that it should be grayer and more nebulous and even more open-ended. Bethesda doesn't even have to look to his own work with Skyrim for help on that. Obsidian took the grey morality route with New Vegas and it worked out wonderfully. Organic leveling and skill progression. RPG veterans are all too familiar with the conventions of leveling. In many JRPGs for instance, you earn experience in battle and level up automatically, with all of your statistics taking some sort of boost regardless of how useful they happen to be to the character in question. A game like Bethesda's Fallout 3 stepped things up for the gamer by giving them a high degree of customization, carrying on an established trend for the series with an existing formula. Leveling had its own perks, of course, but players could associate skill points to build up any statistic they wanted, whether or not it was actually being used. This system works fine, and in its own way it's quite rewarding. The thing is, Skyrim's leveling methodology is something Bethesda should take a close look at for Fallout 4. Skyrim's leveling at its core is rather basics. You can only upgrade one of the three statistics when you leveled up, but then things get much more complicated when you associate a very finite amount of skill points to an oppressive skill tree that requires you to choose your course carefully. You simply cannot master everything in the game. Better yet, individual skill levels up as you use them, not the other way around, which feels more organic and allows you to better embody the character that you're playing as. A more interesting world. There's nothing pretty about the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Whether or not you're playing Fallout 3, Borderlands or Rage, it's clear that when everything has gone to hell you can expect a certain sort of blandness to the aesthetic, but that's not really necessary. Think back to Fallout 3's expansion packs. The best one of the bunch took players away from the doldrums of Washington DC and into a place that's somewhat serene, by Fallout standard anyway. Skyrim is reminiscent of the Point Lookout, not because of the snowy forest of one harken back to exploring the swamplands of Maryland. It makes sense that Fallout 3's capital wasteland looks the way it does, but Fallout 4 should take place somewhere far away from nuclear destruction, in a place that gives you a feeling of wanting to explore. New Vegas went in this direction, but again there's little difference between the nuclear wasteland and a desert. Here's hoping Fallout 4 takes place somewhere fresh, even if the world around it isn't. An even more non-linear affair. It's true, there's nothing more non-linear in all gaming titles than Fallout 3 or Skyrim. You can pretty much do whatever you want whenever you want to do it, as long as you can survive. But that's what makes these kinds of games so engrossing, popular and enduring. But the beginning of Skyrim draws a quick stark comparison to Fallout 3. The former gets going very quickly. The latter takes time to build itself up before ultimately setting you loose. It's really a matter of what you're looking for in the game, but at the end of the day, Skyrim's opening fluidity should be mimicked by Fallout 4. In Fallout 3, gamers began in a vault where they had to go through your character's childhood before they ultimately were set loose into the sandbox several hours into the experience. Skyrim gets you into the action much more quicker, mere minutes after everything begins, and lets you explore immediately. It's true that Skyrim's story is far looser than Fallout 3 as a result, but players want action too, and Fallout 3 began a little too slowly. Fallout 4 should begin more like Skyrim does, but it should also do a better job of fleshing out its story regardless of where you choose to go next. A cleaner aesthetic. It goes without saying, but Skyrim looks a hell of a lot better than Fallout 4. Considering Skyrim came out in 2011 and Fallout 4 is coming out in 2015, that doesn't make much sense. In Skyrim, the single act of staring up into the night sky is enough to make gamers pause, time and time again. But it's not the pretty graphics that's most important. Think about how much cleaner the screen is when you're talking to someone in Skyrim. Think about how insanely clear the leveling system is, using fictional constellations to put you in the time and place that Skyrim takes place in. Pip-Boy is clever in its own right, sure, but Skyrim could certainly lend its finer artistic touch to Fallout 4. This would contribute greatly into making Fallout 4 really pop, especially if Bethesda tries to stick to the tried and true devastation of the Fallout universe. So that's the end of this discussion video, guys. Like and favorite if you enjoyed this kind of video. I'll be making more of these kind of videos in the future, so subscribe if you want to see them. And until next time guys, bye!